Be'ezras Hashem Yisborach Yom Rishon Parshas Emor Tavshin Ayin Vov Yeshiva Tiferes Avigdor. This week's Parsha mentions the mitzvahs HaKedusha, the Kohanim, and then it talks about the mitzvah of the Kohen Godol. So the name Kohen Godol is an interesting name, the great Kohen. Chazal, Pasuk says, "V'hakohen hagodol me'echov," and the Kohen that's greater than his brothers. Chazal ask, "Lama nikra shmoi Kohen Godol?" Why is he called a Kohen Godol? The Gemara said, Chazal tell us, because he's Godol, he's great, the Chamisha Dvarim, in 5 things. One of the 5 things that he's outstanding in is in his koyach. He's outstanding in his koyach. He's a gibor. Chazal say, where do you see that? Bo yurei, come and see Aaron the Kohen, Godol, kishehenif es haLevim. He had a mitzvah to sanctify the Leviim, and he was told to wave the Nevi'im. He had to lift up Parsha like a lulav and wave in all directions the Nevi'im, the Levi'im. How many? Chaf Beis Elef, 22,000 v'yoyim echad. Yeah. Keitzad hoya meinifam. How did he wave them? It says, Mamsh like a lulav, Moilech umevi. He held them close to him, put them away, back and forth. Then Maila up, umayrit. So you see, he was Godol b'koyach, outstanding strength. Now you have to understand, even if one day means 24 hours straight, 60 minutes, an hour, it's still very difficult. In one 24-hour period, there are 1,400 minutes. 60 minutes an hour, right? So even if Aaron was able to do that non-stop, that means in every minute,
4 seconds.
what?
Each guy 4 seconds.
Yeah. He picked up 15 Levium in every minute. That's what it is. No, that means every 4 seconds there's Moilech Umevi. And what if a day means only one day and not including the night, which is many times? That means then he had to do all this in half of the time. No. So all this is L'mayla Miderech HaTeva. And the emissaries, Rabbeinu Bachaya writes clearly, it was an S. It wasn't humanly possible, such a thing. So if so, it's very difficult. How does the Chazal use this as a proof to the strength and the koyach of Aaron HaKohen? It was an S. What's the right that he was such a Baal Koyach? Yet Chazal say this is an indication and a raya of the koyach of the Kohen Godol. So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says that even though a taka was a nes, but if Chazal attribute this nes to the koyach of Aaron HaKohen, it's not the pshat that Aaron HaKohen was a passive bystander and this miracle happened. No. Aaron HaKohen was zeicha to this nes because he put forth tremendous koiches. He put forth powers that were way above and beyond anybody else's koiches. To the point that the Torah says, Vayonef oisam Aaron. Aaron actually lifted them. If the pshat was a nes, it's not the pshat that Aaron then actually waved them. They were waved on the hands of Aaron, but Hashem waved them. The koyach is attributed to Aaron in the Torah because that which he was zeichet to the nes was only after Aaron put forth tremendous koyches, unlimited. That, he says, is what's called tremendous gevura. To be zoichet to such a nes, Aaron HaKohen had to demonstrate a tremendous output of horsepower. He had to produce tremendous expenditure of effort. And then and only then was he zeichet to this nes. And since it was a result of his effort, therefore, that's called gevura. So a gibor, gevura, is when a person, you may have a person who has a strength. Had Aaron HaKohen, let's say, used only 50% of his strength, he wouldn't have been zeicha to this tremendous miracle. To be zeicha to such a miracle, he had to put forth such a tremendous effort on his part, and therefore he was zeicha to this zach. From here we learn that this is what defines Gedolim. You find Gedolei Yisroel, people who attain the name of Gedolim. What's special about them? You look at them, they don't look necessarily all muscled up, and that you read about their efforts that they put forth. You read about the intense, continuous efforts that they put in and day out, and it's mind-boggling. And then it says a lot of it may be above and beyond them. It may be miraculous. But the reason why they're zeichet to it is because they put forth 100% of their effort. And that's why they're given a hashpah more than other people. You have to know why people are zeichet to things. It really depends on their effort. I remember once, many years ago, hearing that the average person uses his mind when he's trying to figure out something. He uses between 2 and 10% of his mind power. We like to think, I'm trying very hard. I'm thinking very hard. We never moved our brain beyond the needle of our brain is stuck. People would be able to see the meter that was on our brains. They would see meters that never moved past the 10, and it's shuckling. When it gets to 2, after 2, it starts to shuckle and dance because we think we're having like a brain what do you call it? Overload, brain overload, and we're about to blow our things, blow our tops. we put very little koiches into when we talk about thinking about a svara. Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, who was a brilliant mind. Everybody held he was brilliant. No question about it, a brilliant mind. Somebody once, the Chavetz Chaim was once in a room together with Reb Chaim, and a man came in, and Reb Chaim was finishing Shemona Esrei. And a man came in and he said, Rebbe, how come this most of the dinim in the Gemara there are arguments about? How come there are more arguments in the Gemara than people agreeing to each other? The whole Yiddishkeit is based on arguments. So Reb Chaim finished Shemona Esrei, and he looked at me and said, Boss? And the guy said, the arguments. So Reb Chaim looked at him, and he said, it's not true. Most things everybody agrees upon. It's a miyut that there are arguments. The Chavetz Chaim heard this, and the Chavetz Chaim left the room, and he was accompanied with somebody else. The person that accompanied him testified that the Chavetz Chaim was shakua, was deep in thought, like nobody's business. And they got on a train, and they took a train, they had to get on a wagon, till they arrived home. It was a massive trip to get home from where they were. And when they neared the Chavetz Chaim's home, the Chavetz Chaim said, Reb Chaim the Chagoyim. Reb Chaim is a goyim. So the guy said, what are you talking about? He thought Chavetz Chaim was thinking learning. He said, Reb Chaim figured out, Chavetz Chaim was non-stop, he was chazering over the whole Shas to make a cheshbon, how Reb Chaim figured out that most things there's no arguments about. He had to run through such an effort, his mind, to figure out most things that aren't arguments, less things they argue about than things they agree upon. And the Chavetz Chaim was thinking, make this cheshbon budget. I'm spoiled that every human being could make this cheshbon afterwards, could check it, like they say, could check such a thing. And the Chavetz Chaim was able to check it. What's the pshat in Reb Chaim? You know what the pshat is? Because Reb Chaim used 100% of his brain. The Rebbe used to say over about his father, in the ways that his father spoke about his father, Reb Chaim, that there were times Reb Chaim would go into a shul, it could be hundreds of people there, coming and going, it could be, and Reb Chaim from after Shacharis would start to think about his svara. And there were times that they saw him putting his head against a pillar, a cement pillar, with his hands behind his back, clasped behind his back, and he would stand there thinking about a subject from Shacharis till Mincha. And a number of times they saw him in that pose, and then when he came back to himself, he would give a shout, what's hanging on me? He thought his hands were something that was hanging on him, didn't belong to him. It was in such shock. What's hanging on me? Where did his hands come from? That's how it is. Now, Reb Chaim's brain was a brain that we can't imagine the brain power. What made him a Godol was the fact that when he thought about, he could hold a thought for so many hours and think about something. How's it try it? I've tried that. 30 seconds, a minute. After that, you finish. You get mixed up, maybe you can say, I'll start over again. But to hold one thought, we have no brain power. That's what a gvur is. If you ever saw the approach in Brisk, the approach to mitzvahs, it could tire you out, Pasha, just watching them do mitzvahs. Because they do things with all their kaiches. A Rebbe would make bedikas chametz a whole entire night. Not an hour, not an hour and a half. He didn't live in a mansion. He only had 2 bedrooms in his house. No upstairs, no downstairs. one little porch that was very little, and I've seen what he does. When Chazal say you're supposed to check your house, he actually took his two eyeballs and eyeballed every single inch of his house. Then he walked in the room, all like this. No, you're supposed to check. He checks every single balata, every tile, every drawer, every single thing in the drawer. He holds it, checks it. Could it be chametz? Where's chametz? I used to wonder at them, if you don't have that many holes in your house. I used to think maybe you have some deep holes that's going to chayrim b'stokim. No. It's a pella, but he checked, because that's what Chazal say. I used to get tired just thinking about it. His effort that he expended on Lulav and Esrog. It was mind-boggling. There was no such thing as tired. The gvura that they had for mitzvahs, for avodas Hashem, was superhuman. It could go a whole night, and then the next day is a regular day. That's how they did mitzvahs. You never depicted upon them like a weariness of tired from mitzvahs. They put forth 100% koyach. And what was it? They had koyach. They expended all their energy when it came to learning. He put forth all his efforts, all his energy. That's what it was. And there was nothing. There was nothing that was too expensive. There was nothing that was too much and too hard. You never heard such a thing from him. Nope. Reb Gifta used to say a tremendous line. He used to say, remember this line, Rabbi said, it's a tremendous line. He used to say, the minimum that is demanded of a human being is the maximum that he's capable of producing. That's the minimum. Somebody who does that is called a gibar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us the minimally our maximum. Chazon Ish has a letter in Kovet Sigris Acheli Gimel, tremendous letter, where he talks about what he calls kitzonius, being a radical. And he used to say, if you're not extreme in something, and you don't demand extreme from others, if your life is not lived to the extreme, it's either because you are short in brains, chadlei tevuna, or you're just a person who's not a shalem. You're a midget of a mensch. He says everybody knows, it's a davar pashut, that when you do something, if what you're doing is the proper thing, SHLITA, and what you're doing is the proper thing, you do it to the best and to the most extreme manner you can do it. There's no such thing as 50%. There's no such thing as 60%. That's what we're talking about. We talk about Koyin HaGodol. Dulo is manifests itself with a gevura, with a strength. That's what you have to do. And the Torah tells us, and we have to look in the Torah. Yaakov Avinu was a tremendous, powerful person. Tremendous gevura. He used his efforts to learn 14 years without going to sleep. Continuous. Those kind of gevura that demands, we can't imagine. Can't imagine. I know a bacher. His name was Label Birnbaum. He was a son of Reb Shtamir Rosh Hashiva Reb Shmuel Birnbaum. He was a Gibor Otzum. He would learn. Remember when he came to camp? If I met him when he came to camp, he walked into camp, and I asked him to sign up, but he had no money. He said, "I'm not going to occupy a room. Is there a charge to learn in the Beis Medrash?" And he learned a whole day. So you don't sleep in a bed? He said, "I won't sleep in a bed." And he did not sleep in a bed. He would learn, and at night he would stand on it. He was always hoarse. He had a hoarse voice. And at night he would learn the Koil Rum, literally the whole night. And in the morning before davening, he would jump over the fence and he would go into the freezing swimming pool, wake himself up. He davened b'Koil Rum. He learned a whole day like this. You can't imagine this unless you've seen. I watched the guy. One time he laid in the bed Friday night. There was no shortage of bums in the camp, so he would go to them and said, "Do you mind if I sleep in your bed till you want to go to sleep? Whenever you want to go to sleep, just wake me up and I'll depart the bed." So he used to get to sleep till 2, 3 in the morning. It was Mavel Alarai. That's called putting forth. He lived like that. He was non-stop. When he got married, he moved to Eretz Yisrael. He used to have chavrusas. From 12 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. It was like that normal. He had chavrusas. People used to come to learn with him for an hour. They would wake up and they would learn with him. He had his gevura. But that was inner strength. When the Torah tells us that the daughter of Parai went to be roichitz in the Nahar, she went to be toivel in the Nile, Yamsuf, and she sees the Teva, which held Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, "Vatishlach es hamosa." She sent forth her hand to grab it. So Rashi says that for her to reach that box that held Moshe, it wasn't shaykh. It wasn't shaykh. Her hand extended itself. Amois harbe. Unbelievable. It was many, many amois away from her. There wasn't the havamina that she would send forth her hand and try to get it, and be able to get it. But even so, she demonstrated, "I want to have the get the thing." And HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to her hand. If you take a look in the Rishonim, it brings down from Chazal. The Askenim Balitaysi says, you know how many amis it extended? 60 amis. Even if 60 amis is a foot and a half, but that's like extreme. What's the pshat? I'm not talking about miracles. It wasn't pshat Hashem. Of course Hashem made a miracle, but you know what the pshat, it was b'derech she'adam roitza leilech melichenes. This was the derech that the person wanted to go. It was melichenes. When a person demonstrates an inner strength, when a person demonstrates a rotzen, az, it's tremendous power. There was a bacher once in yeshiva here many years ago. He used to learn every single night till 4:30 in the morning. He was a bacher that didn't understand one word. Not a word. And every morning he learned till 4:30 in the morning. That was a seder. And he was back at 7:30. And he would sleep during the day for about an hour or an hour and a half. And the guy was a machine. He had a rotzen like nobody's business. Tremendous gevura. I used to ask him, "How do you do it?" He said, "I want to make it." I said, "I got to make it." I said, "But you don't understand." I mean, the learning came very hard to him. Nothing stuck. It took him mamish hours for a line to get into his head. No, What was going on in the mind of the daughter of Parai at that time when she tried to get Moshe? I can't imagine. But her roots and her output of effort had to be so strong that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, for a zamin investment of effort, you're going to get your hand to be extended more than is humanly possible. When you read about Rav Shteinman, a man who's 100 plus, and the man learns like inhumanly, and he eats 2 matzahs. What does he eat? A roll a day? He eats about nothing. And he said, no one ever dies. When they ask him, no, people don't die from eating too little, he says. It wasn't no. He came to America, the guy prepared a meal for the guy, nothing. Garnished. How do you physically do it? How can you should be, he said, guy that age, he should be sitting. It's I say take the pasuk. Then the gvuros, v'rabam amol v'oven. Most get to that age, you don't have any keiches anymore. Rebbe Yashik, till 2 o'clock in the morning to learn a whole day to the night. How is that humanly possible? You go tell it to any guy in the outside world, physical therapists, doctors, will say, oh, he must be pumped up in iron, he must have weights under the table when he keeps on doing this. He exercise, the guy don't move from his seat. The only exercise he did is move his head a little bit. That's all the exercise he did. No, what's the pshat? Pshat is a person has this koyah within himself. That's what gvura is. Gvura is not the physical. You ever see a guy who has with a guy an arm wrestle? Sometimes you see a guy, he looks like a kind of guy that he shouldn't win the arm wrestle. You can't imagine. And you see the guy get in this position, and he's not cheating. He's not holding the table with his other hand. He's taking the arm wrestle, and you see a guy, mamish, able to win. What's up, Shad? Because he has that inner gvura. He puts forth 110% of his effort. And when a person puts forth 110% of his effort, he produces much more than he humanly has. The Chayvus Halvavis, in the Shar Cheshbon and Nefesh, he says, when a person does what's in his ability, in Cheshbon 22, he has a number of Cheshbonis. He says, when a person does what's within his ability, he gets and he receives koiches that are shaloi b'derech hateva. Chachma, brains. But he has to understand that they want from you 100%. They want you to put forth l'mayla miderech hateva. When a person is willing to put forth l'mayla miderech hateva, Hashem comes forth for you. See, if a person sometimes is in a matziv of danger, and he has to hang off the edge of a building, and somebody tells him, don't let go. Under usual circumstances, the guy would have the power to hang on for more than 30 seconds. And all of a sudden, you see people reach within themselves, and they put forth such an effort, and people could hang there for an unbelievable amount of time. How's it possible? How's it shaykh? Because they have the will to live. Their will produces a strength that they never imagined they had. This is what we have to understand, Rabbi Say, is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. If you want to be great, you want to be zoichet to the name of Kohen Godol. The Alter in the Vardik used to say, I never think when I approach something if I'm able to do this or not. I just ask myself the following question. Is this something that I have to do? Is it something that needs to be done? Then I will do it. Person has to know This is with the derech that he went all his life. And this is what gave him his hatzlach. Somebody once pointed out to him that his koiches was just a mavel al harayim. What he did, and how many yeshivas the Alter and the Vardik started, it was mind-boggling. And he said, somebody asked him, how did you do it? He said, you should know as follows, he says, the koiches that a father is willing to put forth to save his son. If a father would see his son drowning, if a father would see his son, a car on his son. You know how many stories there are of a car and a child, and the father lifts the car off the child? He said the koyach that a father would expend to save his child is enough to build 100 yeshivas. Nope. And if people understood that to save the olam haTorah was no less than saving your only son, a person would find within himself the koiches to accomplish much more continuously. This is what we have to understand. And we have to yearn for these koiches. You have to be shoyeh for the koiches. You never heard of such a concept, you never even dream, you just say, I tried to learn. I put forth my effort. I was, okay, 2%, and I'm ready, feeling, I smell the wood burning in the room. I feel like, whatchamacallit, my ears are falling off already. And people, you don't realize what you're putting forth. You never in your life expended any effort to this. That's not like you see people staying up all night doing shtusim. People put forth, you could do shtusim, b'havolim, they do all night, it's unbelievable. But when it comes to doing the right thing, they put forth very, very little effort. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us and grant us the koiches to put forth our efforts and to have a ratzon to put in our efforts in, so that we shall produce and become gedolim.